Let's talk about numbers and numbers that you need when you travel. So we're going to focus mainly on the most common numbers that you will use while traveling. They are very important for a lot of situations. So you might feel like that you know numbers, but sometimes it's important to review, reinforce, and practice them in the context that we need. In the sections, we are going to learn the different types of numbers, how to make the difference between them, and how to pronounce them properly in most common travel situations. Let's start the section with how to pronounce the small and large numbers. I'm sure you already know a lot of small numbers or maybe even large numbers. But it's important to do some review and reinforce. I highly recommend you to go and check the flashcards and the matching exercises just after this lesson so you can see a little bit more about what you know and what you need to practice. In this lesson, in this video, you're not going to see all the numbers, just I'm going to show you some little things that you need to know, but you need to review. If you need to review more in details, do not hesitate to use the exercises for that. First, how to pronounce the numbers and in particular the small numbers. All the numbers before 20 are considered as individual numbers simply because we only pronounce one word. 1, 2, 3, etc. Then we use tens with individual numbers. So you're going to have to use your first column with another number. 20, 30, 40, those are tens. But when you write them, you need to make sure that you don't forget to use a dash between the individual number and the 10. Now let's have a look at a large number. Large numbers are pretty much the same than in French, but the fact that you say them in English can be sometimes very confusing. Let's have a look at a little tip I recommend you to do, in particular because in English we have something different from French. In English, you have to use commas in between each unit. Each unit will represent 100, so you have 3 numbers, and then the comma is associated to a word that you need to pronounce. So you can use visually the comma to help you to remember that you have a word to say. Be careful because if you don't use the comma when you write large numbers, this is a mistake. In French, we use space, but in English, you're going to have to use comma. I know it's confusing because we use the comma for decimals, but in English, in decimals, you're going to have to use a point. For example, this number here is incorrect in English. Without the commas, it doesn't mean anything. It would be a code or something. Let's have a look at 3 other numbers just to illustrate what I mean by that. The first one would be pronounced 2002. This is the normal number, large number. Then we have 2002 again, but here we understand that it's a year. And the last one is a decimal, 2.002. Now let's see how you pronounce this big number. Each unit is pronounced separately. So we're going to start by looking at just the units. So if we just look at the units, we have 3, then 560, then 309, then 197. Now let's add the vocabulary for each comma. If we had the vocabulary, we add billion, then million, and then thousand. And here you go. You got your full large number pronounced. So if we pronounce everything together, you will have 3,560,309,197. Now let's think about the French pronunciation. 3,560,309,197. Exactly the same. So if you're really completely lost and you feel like you can't do it, just think about the French, make the connection, and you will succeed. One tiny detail is that the British people would say "and" after 100. However, Americans don't. It's totally up to you which one you prefer to say. Just make sure that you never put an S to million, thousand, billion. They are irregular plural, so if you have 2, you will say 2 million, but not 2 millions. Now, let's dive into another subject in another lesson, but now I recommend you to go directly to the exercises and do a bit of practice.